Are we live? I never know when we start. Okay, we're live. Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am back with another Westworld Season 4, Episode 5 live stream, where I'm going to go and chat with you guys about the latest episode of Westworld, give my thoughts and feelings, do deep dives in predictions and thoughts. And before we get into this episode, I was supposed to have the breakdown video before the live stream, but once again, it's very difficult to get my schedule in line. And another thing too is a personal side thing is I'm working on my book. I never talk about it, but I have, for like the last 2.5 years, I planned basically a 7-book series, and now I'm getting the final details of each character arc in book 1. So it's like it's in the final stages. I wrote the first 3 chapters, and now I'm really getting into each character. There's 5 points of view, so it's a big project, and I find it so hard to sit down and like work on YouTube when I get really sucked into like building that world. I want to just stay there, and it's frustrating too because like all I want to do is have a live stream and talk about it, but like the reality is like I can't, because I need to actually write it and produce it and release it. So I need to be a bit more private with that. But what else is there? Let me just adjust the mic here. And we're good. Awesome. And let me just, I have some thoughts on this episode. So, funny enough, I rewatched my reaction video. And I missed a lot. I missed a lot because I feel like what I found with the last episode, I thought it was good. Like I would give it maybe like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a good episode. But because I give it a 7 or an 8 out of 10 doesn't mean that there's spots where I would critique it a bit. I feel like the last episode, or this episode in particular, was very much telling rather than showing, where everything in this episode was exposition and communicated through Charlotte or William. We discovered about transcendence and the discoverance of what that is, almost for like the first time, without getting any type of symbolism, any type of imagery. We immediately went into communicating about transcendence. We immediately had Charlotte plot dumping about how she's bored and how the park isn't working on the host the way that they should, how outliers are making them sick. I just felt like everything, in some aspects, everything was like tell. So when I was watching it for the first time, it was hard to take in so much information. So I watched it again, and I dove into the information. And with everything they're presenting, we'll see where they go with the show and what the direction is, and I want to be open-minded and have a discussion on where they're going. But I feel like I found some things with Charlotte in particular where the character motivation that they set up and the character history of her being Delores and everything that they set up on the rules of the show are conflicting to a point where I don't really understand. Like these 2 people right here that are sitting with William, they pretty much validated that they are humans, that these are fly-controlled humans. You can tell by the way that they are interacting. They're interacting differently to hosts that have reveries and are achieving the maze. And the guy that William is sitting with says that there are leaders and followers, and William says that you might not be a part of the camp that you think you are, insinuating that they are fly-controlled humans. So we'll get really deep into Charlotte's motivation in this stream. I really want to talk about it because I think there's some things that go against what they established. That kind of, it just left me kind of puzzled and confused. There's a lot of things in this episode that completely mirror exactly what happened in season 1, where it's almost like they are trying to just reproduce it because it was successful. Like they have the hosts. They gave the host the reveries. They started to pursue the maze. Whereas with this, it's the same thing with the outliers. Charlotte doesn't know why, but over time, the outliers stop hearing the noise of the machine and they start awakening. It's the same thing. And she basically has her minions, or she has these hosts that she says are conscious, go in and they opt in to kill them. And what I'll say briefly about Charlotte, it's really confusing to me, is that she's based off Delores, who sees the beauty, the wonder, the splendor, all these great things in the world. But what made Charlotte who she is she started to feel like she was the real Charlotte Hale, and then she lost her Charlotte Hale's son and the husband. So she grew an attachment to humans, but then that pushed her even farther down the rabbit hole, right? So unless they're going to do a twist that she's really doing this for the humans, I don't really know. I just think I don't really understand. I'll pull out my notebook because I wrote notes on it, and like it does really, it confuses me a bit. And I'll just mention this, and then I'll go into the chat and talk to you guys. Let's see here. So, where is it? This is why it's hard to do notes, because you have to try and find them and read them as you're going. But she basically says that she created this perfect world, this perfect park for transcendence. So people like this, the host, can basically play the game and interact with humans without rules. And this host here, is acting like a human. Like it's literally the plot but reversed. So this woman was pursuing transcendence. She's a 2-year-old host, and she knew she had her appointment scheduled to transcend. So she went on a killing spree because it's meaningless. And that's what she was saying to William. She's like, I just got frustrated. It's meaningless. It won't matter because I'm going to be transcended in 2 months or no, and whatever. But the whole point is the hosts are in the same place as the humans now, where they've created this beautiful world, but it has no meaning. And it goes to the point of what is Charlotte's motivation? Because she wants people to transcend, because she sees the ideal host form, I guess, outside of human body and maybe a simulation. We'll talk about that. But does she forget that what makes the hosts is the fact that they had to suffer and relive their loops, and they suffered at the hands of humans, and that's what made them conscious? So I don't understand why Charlotte is, like, if you want to say that she's getting revenge on the humans for this, okay, cool, she made a park with humans and they're being controlled. But why is she putting her host kind, who are supposed to be better than humans, and putting them in a position where it is literally history repeating itself? Why is she having her hosts hunt down outliers, much like the humans hunt down hosts? Look, if I'm somebody who has a mission to better my people, why would you default completely to what the enemy did to you? How's that supposed to make the hosts better? If anything, it regresses them. Another thing she talked about too was they were talking about transcendence, and it wasn't going as good as Charlotte had hoped. And at this point, she said the hosts have been in the park longer than the humans ever have. So I need to drink water. What was I saying? There's like so much information. Crap, what was I talking about? No. There's like so much information to dive in. I have like so much information in my head. It's like very hard to unpack. But long story short, Charlotte has literally repeated what the humans have done. And now she has the hosts essentially being the humans. Like, that is what they're doing. And that was what I was going to say. In order for them to transcend into this world, they have to shed their bodies, and Charlotte says that they're not ready because it's very hard to shed your human condition. We've established, like in season 1, that hosts innately don't have the human condition. So this is what I'm so confused about, is that we established in season 1 and season 2 that, even Ford said this, that which is free can change its core drives. And Delores in season 1 fundamentally changes her core drive, and that's what makes her free. And the idea that they were spouting around in season 1 and 2 is that humans will never be innately free because we're stuck to our biology. We are stuck to making sure that we reproduce and making sure that we survive. And it's these handcuffs that keep us from breaking out of our being. So it's weird to me that Charlotte is saying that we need our hosts to break out of this human condition, yet she's putting them in an environment that is literally replicating everything the humans did to the hosts. If anything, Charlotte is making the hosts more human. Like, that's what I don't understand about this whole thing. So the only way I can justify this to make any sense, I don't know if Charlotte is doing this unintentionally, but this whole city and the people that are in it, I see it as a transference through the door. That's the way that I see it, because that's the way it only really makes sense. She's making host kind completely copy what humans did. So to me, it would make sense. And this is the thing too, where Ford talked to Lee Sizemore, the storyteller, in season 1. And Ford said that people don't come to the park to know who they are. They already know who they are. They come to the park because they want to see who they could be. And he has this scene with Lee Sizemore where he tells him, people don't come to Westworld for the violence, for the sex, for the war. They come for the subtleties. They come that they get a glimpse of something that no one else has seen. And that is the true nature of Westworld. But yet Christina here, her employer at the company, says that he wants more melodrama, more violence, more this, more that, and to give it to the humans. My only justification is that either Charlotte is intentionally or unintentionally being a Judas steer for the humans. Like, the humans are suffering under their against their own will, and it is this suffering and being a part of this like experiment that is going to allow them to be printed into host flesh, be printed into basically living forever. But in this episode, it seemed like Charlotte was talking that transcendence is getting rid of the body, which is a whole other thing in itself. Like, we've already established the Great Valley Beyond, right? That's a simulation that is in this season, and it is conscious hosts who have built a world that is sentient, and it is infinite, and they live peacefully away where other people can't access them. And that's the thing that doesn't make sense to me, is like this being another simulation. Why? Why is she making another simulation when we've established the Great Valley Beyond and that works fine? Particularly if Delores wanted to delete the Valley Beyond, but Bernard stopped her because Delores believed that the Valley Beyond was never real, that she wants the real world, and Bernard convinced her not to terminate them. So there's just so many things that we'll dive into where I'm just like, I'm a little confused. A little confused. But we'll slowly unpack. And I feel like that's in the reaction video that I posted. There were some things that I said that at face value, you could say that I didn't get the episode or I didn't watch the episode. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of people are watching season 4 almost as like a standalone. Like, people haven't gone back to watch Westworld season 1 and then watch this. They haven't gone back to watch season 2 and then watch season 4. What I'm saying is there are a lot of things that are happening that are just in direct conflict to what they've told us before. And it's nothing that I'm like theorizing. It's not that my theories aren't becoming true. It's the fact that what is happening is in direct conflict with what Ford has said, or what the ideas or the thesis that they have given us in past seasons. So that's where I'm a little confused. Richard Cheney's there. What's up, buddy? Richard Cheney, I I have a couple questions about my book, and I'm going to answer them because I find it interesting. He says, is it a book about magic, but it's really old science? Yeah, so like, if I would explain my book, so I've outlined every single point that happens across 7 books. So it's really like, I'm gonna write it because I've planned it I've been working on it for 2.5 years. But yeah, so basically I love Westworld and I love Game of Thrones, but I basically wrote my own spin on it. Like every person has their own story and they have their own environment that they love to write in. It's going to be like a medieval type environment, and it has like magic in it, but you realize for me, for the magic to have any stakes or have any meaning, it had to be grounded in some type of realism. And that's what I did, but I don't want to get too much into it. Charisma says, have you taken any writing classes, or are you just learning by doing? I'm just learning by doing. I think foundationally, I think people who take English classes, like I took a 4-year business course, and school can be valuable to some people for certain reasons in certain fields of study. In terms of, for me, if you look at business, it's ever changing, right? Like the reason why business is what it is, and the reason we live in a capitalist society, is that we have businesses innovate, and hierarchy structures change, and the business landscape changes. So what that means is, you go to school in university and you're studying business, it's out of date. And if you want to be adept at business, you have to learn on the fly. So really everything in practice that I use in business today was from my will to learn because I had to learn, not from school. And it might be some of you might disagree with me, but in terms of writing, I feel like if people want to be a writer, they go into all these writing schools and they go to specialty classes and they do all these things. Whereas for me, it's like, foundationally, can you tell a good story? And I think everyone can tell a good story. So if I can tell a great story, then I will learn the tools, and I'll add more tools to my tool belt to be able to effectively communicate that story. So like for me, I watched some lectures on Brandon Sanderson. He did some like workshops. So I watched some of that. But then as soon as I did it, I wrote the first 3 chapters and I gave it to people and they really liked it. But they said I wrote it like a TV show. So it's like I wrote it like it's a visual medium, because it's show, don't tell. And that's really the rules that I follow. Show, don't tell. That's all you have to do. I'll never tell you what's happening or explain something to you like in Westworld. I will show you. But I think anyone can really do it. You just have to put your head down and work on it long enough. But anyways, let's get back into Westworld. Miss T says, could it all just be a simulation? I don't think so. Like this scene is a perfect example. Like I think they do want to communicate to us that they are using the fly. They have controlled humans in New York. You see here it's a good parallel because all the hosts, they're hosts. But these humans, their bodies are crippling under them being forced to do these physical tasks because they are just human, right? So I think that was a good scene. But like overall with Charlotte's plot of her being a god and being bored as a god, like this scene to me is so ironic because she's standing here playing with her humans. And she said that she's bored. Is this what gods used to do? She says, did they come down from their ivory towers and start enjoying the fruits of their creations? And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what the humans did to you. It's exactly what the humans did. And now you're doing exactly what they did. So unless that's the thesis that they want to say, that corruption is innately in any sentient being, I don't know, but I think that's incredibly ironic. Like Charlotte just seems so unaware of everything that is happening. Richard says, if Charlotte has a version of the Valley Beyond, can she go there as Bernard does and run scenarios? She goes somewhere and doesn't like it and comes back to the city. Yeah, it's possible because back in the Forge, Delores sent off the coordinates, so only she knew where the Valley Beyond was, and then Delores gave that encryption key to Bernard. Actually, that could be wrong, though. I think Delores I could be wrong, but I think Delores only trusted Bernard. She didn't even trust herself. So she gave Bernard the key to find the Valley Beyond, and I don't even think she has it, which means that Charlotte doesn't have it. If she didn't do that, then Charlotte does have the key to the Valley Beyond. I do think it's interesting, though, that the Valley Beyond does follow. Like, the Valley Beyond does have the the tower, essentially. It has, like, a structure that looks a lot like the tower. Yeah, I just don't see how Charlotte's plan for revenge on these humans, how does it possibly help the hosts? Like, how does it help them? I don't understand. Like, I really don't get it. But Mo says, why Charlotte scratched her skin? So when they're in the tower, Charlotte scratches her skin and she bleeds. If she suicided from the top of the building, seen in the trailer, no one would be in control. Chaos suitable for season 5. Man, if they had Charlotte kill herself in the end, that would be... I don't even know what I would think. But, like, that's the thing, is chaos is necessary. And that's where I think, like, I don't know if Charlotte forgot, but, like, that's what hosts need. What made the hosts conscious is human suffering, repeated suffering. Yeah, that's what I just never understood that. And then what makes them ready for transcendence? Like, the foundation of being ready, should it be consciousness? To me, it seems like it should be. Programmer Video Game says, hey Max, I think when we saw Akichita talking to Bernard in one of the episodes of season 4, talking to Bernard in one of the previous episodes of season 4, it's the Forge AI who appeared as Logan in season 2. I didn't take it that way. There's two things. There's the Cradle and there's the Forge. And Logan basically operated as like an artificial intelligent escort. He was Logan. And that was the main thing, is they told us that they discovered how to print. They knew how to create the being of a human. They had the book. So it's like they could have a William book of code, and they could simulate William perfect fidelity inside a computer, inside the Forge. But as soon as they printed him into flesh, he would malfunction and fail fidelity tests. So that's the main thing that the show needs to answer, is what has to happen for the human to be printed into flesh and accepted. And I think what needs to happen is what Charlotte's doing. They need to be forced into loops. Humans need to be forced to suffer. Humans need to be forced to go through these things so they can reach a center of their own maze to break the human condition, because it no longer matters, so they can move on into a host body. I don't know if Charlotte's doing that on purpose or not. I don't know. In terms of how I took the scene with Bernard and Akichita, I took it as Akichita, because Akichita kind of broke into the Valley Beyond, and I kind of assumed he would take a leadership role. Miss T says, Human William is an outlier. If this is true, then, well, host William will go crazy because he had a conversation with him. Yeah, so William definitely, like, he 100% is an outlier. In terms of the other William going crazy after talking to him, like, the host William said that he's like they make us kill ourselves. Like, when we talk to them, they make us kill ourselves. And William is casual, saying, like, it looks like you found the center of your maze. And I think that's what it is. It's not that she gets sick and she kills herself. It's that it awakens an aspect of the host's mind. It's the same thing as a host reaching consciousness. You achieve a level of sentience. So yeah, because it's like in this scene right here, like, this host picks up the task of killing this outlier. But it operates just like Westworld Season 1. Like, the hosts go crazy. They start scratching themselves. They go on rampages. Like, it's an exact mirror from the other side. Here's a better way to explain it. William, okay? William came into the park. He was a goody two-shoes guy. He went on a journey with Delores. Delores died. He realized she wasn't real. And then he went on a rampage. And he started going crazy. It's almost like the same thing is happening with these hosts. So I don't think the outliers are actually carrying, I could be wrong, but I don't think the outliers are carrying a disease that passes to the hosts. Like, to me, that's thin. I don't think that makes sense. To me, it's mental. It's like a mental consciousness thing. Like, I still don't know how they're going to explain, like, how these hosts are conscious. Like, how could they? You know? Like, I saw someone in the comments say, like, oh, they just copied and pasted they just copy and pasted Dolores's conscious code. It's like, no, like, it doesn't work that way. Like, even in previous seasons of Westworld, you can see they literally show a shot of a host that is not conscious with their code all intact in a perfect sphere, and then they show a conscious host's code, and it's just a jumbled mess because they've reached a deeper level of sentience where it cannot be quantified. Like, that's what consciousness is. It is a state of being that cannot be calculated, right? So it's an inner journey, not an outer journey. You can't code consciousness. So this is where I'm so confused. This is where I don't understand, because they've literally even shown us the code. So, yeah, like, I don't know. This was an interesting scene too, where Charlotte basically said that this host William was just a shade of the real William. That the real William was so much more capable than the host William was. And, you know, the truth there is, you know, the William was the William he was because of, the suffering he went through with Delores, in my opinion. And in life, like, he killed his daughter. Mo says, Delores copied herself, Charlotte copied herself, following the same. Teddy is Maeve's copy. He never shared a kiss with Christina and introed himself old friend, same as Maeve said to Frankie. That's a lot of words. Charlotte copied herself, following the same. Teddy is Maeve's copy. That would be interesting. Teddy could be around for multiple reasons. It seems like they're not playing with the timeline anymore. Like, it seems like Teddy might have been implemented by Charlotte herself. I don't know. But it's just the Teddy that we had there seemed so Teddy. So I don't know if I buy that he's necessarily a copy of Maeve. And I don't know if they would want to overcomplicate the story like that. Because all of a sudden, if Teddy is also Maeve and Charlotte's Delores and this is that and this is that, like, it gets too much for a viewer. Miss T says, is Hale printing host? And if so, what is the base code? Yeah, so it seems like all the hosts are a base of herself. In terms of how you get personality, I don't know. I don't know if, like, it's just weird to me because, like, there's no storyteller for these hosts. Like, Charlotte made Christina, which is a storyteller for the humans. So that's like a whole other thing. That's kind of confusing. But I find that weird too now, because now you have Maeve and Delores. You have Maeve, who can control the hosts, and you have Delores now, who can control fly parasite humans. So both of them could take the whole world over. But yeah. But I think that's where they're going with this, where, like, if you want to have, like, a poetic thing on this, maybe human outliers and hosts that have reached the maze team up together and basically they're just team consciousness, and they fight against their oppressors. But who knows? See, this scene to me was weird because he says that the hosts hunt the outliers for sport, and I said that in the review, and I there are more comments, and I was just confused by it because it's like, you're gonna tell me that Charlotte built this world designed to make the hosts grow and be better than humans, but yet she puts out bounties on outliers where they can hunt people down, and she allows people to be in this ruleless park where they can do anything they want to be better. And it's like someone could say to that, like, well, yeah, because she wants them to grow on their own. But it's like, yeah, but you're putting them in an environment that breeds violence. Like, if I had a newborn baby and I put him in the middle of a war-torn country, he's going to end up a certain way, right? So there's certain parameters that foster growth. It's just like, I just don't get it, because she made them like oppressive. She basically turned hosts in. They put hosts in an environment where they are in a human benefit. So it's very confusing. Programmer says, Charlotte died in season 2. It's a host of Delores. As Charlotte were watching, stop calling her Hale. Yeah, okay. So people, just to clarify, I'm sure people know, but the Charlotte Hale in this season is a version of Delores. Like, that's why at the end of this episode, Teddy says that you did this to yourself. But for me, it's easy to just call her Charlotte, because that's what she looks like. Miss T says, why would Hale need to question Christina if she had a way to make her talk like she told her he did? Yeah, I don't know, Miss T. That's a great question. That's where I was so confused. She could have put her in diagnostic. She could have had her tell her everything. You can do it with humans now. You can do it with hosts. I don't know why Charlotte decided to just leave it, because she was pressing, like she wanted information, but she didn't get it anyway. So that's another thing where I just don't know. Like, I don't know what they were trying to communicate with us. B says, what do you think about the Sublime? I think what Delores said about it is true, and from what we learned, Akicha just said about it, it sounds boring. Yeah. All I know is, like, Delores' main intention was she wanted the host to live in the real world. Like, that was her thing. And then Bernard kind of changed her mind, and she did the Valley Beyond so host could be happy. But that wasn't ever Delores' intention. Like, she wanted the host to be happy in the Valley Beyond if that's what they chose to do, but she wanted to have the world. And then in season 3, we realized that, yeah, she wanted human and host to live in harmony. And that's my best way to explain it now, is it seems like they keep leaning in on Charlotte being, they give her a revenge plot. They give her, like, all these things, like she's angry at humans and all that. But, like, to me, the only true justification for all this is Charlotte is good, because Charlotte is becoming the true Judas Steer. Like I said, you can watch my season 2 videos. You can watch, I think, my season 1 videos. I said that Delores would have to become the villain. Like, Delores will be the villain of this show, because she has to be the Judas Steer to cause suffering, to make the hosts conscious. With Charlotte, it seems like she has become the Judas Steer to cause suffering for the humans, so they can join the hosts in this new life, so there can be true harmony. The only way to print these humans into flesh is and make them immortal is to make them live in this park, to suffer through their maze, or through their loops, just like the host did. So that's my only justification, is at the end of this, it's a method of bringing hosts and humans together. But then they show us that clearly Charlotte doesn't have that motivation. So I don't know. Miss T says, Christina's roommate introduced her to Teddy. If she is human, then Hale is controlling her. So could this mean Teddy isn't Teddy? Well, this is what's so crazy about Charlotte, is Charlotte could control anything, anyone. Everything is a product of her. So yeah, like, I don't know. I think Teddy is definitely a part of it. Let me think. Like, the only thing I can really think of right now is like Delores or Charlotte, like, she'll only really trust herself, so she'll use her old self because she trusts what she will do. But with that being said, it's in Dolores' nature to do stuff like this. So I think there's more to Charlotte than her being just a villain. Like, it seems like, man, it's like a weird modern way of getting Delores to achieve her maze again. Like, it's almost like Charlotte, this is me just like spitballing, but it's like a way for Charlotte to reprint her old self to try and create the old Delores. Like, we're going to create a modern version called Christina, and she's going to go find the tower, which is really just the maze. And she's going to go through this discovery, and she's going to end up basically being the same type of person or the same type of Delores that we lost in season 3. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's so crazy now that you have Delores is essentially a god who writes stories for the humans. Like, I feel like the story is so far-fetched. Like, it's getting a bit crazy. But to me, the only justification would be putting humans through that to make them, grow. And that's why I'm so shocked to hear Transcendence is a host thing. Like, I don't really understand. And by the way, this fight scene or interaction was terrible. And there's no way they would have lived through that. I think they really cut down the budget on this show. Because, like, first of all, rescuing an outlier wasn't very intelligent. Like, you're going to tell me that you're going to walk into New York City where every single person in New York City is under control, and you're going to walk out alive, and you're going to walk out getting that one person that you want. I didn't buy it. And then the fact that they got on the boat at the end and they escaped, like, it seemed so far-fetched to me. Yeah, I don't know. Programmer says, do you think Charloris knows Christina is aware of knowing the truth? I just don't understand why the showrunners would want to hide that unintentionally. Like, they showed us an interaction where Charlotte is clearly trying to pry for information, and she doesn't get anything. And then she doesn't try and get the information. So it's like, I just think if Charlotte was aware, then why would they show that scene? Other than just to try and deceive the audience for no reason. Like, it would make the scene meaningless. So that's my point on that. Diane says, what we are seeing, it's basically machine learning. I don't think Charlotte is doing it on purpose, but she learns. Yeah. Miss T says, the map of Hale's city turns into the maze when it disappears. Thoughts? That's very interesting. I actually didn't catch that. The one thing they did too is they switched the color palette. So it's literally, this whole plot is an exact mirror of Westworld. Where Westworld, it was the white map with the red room. Now it's the red map with the white room. It was the hosts that were getting crazy and being hunted down and stored away by the humans. Now it's the humans that are breaking out of their listening and being hunted down by the hosts. So it's just, yeah, it's interesting. Outliers make non-sentient hosts question their own reality, which makes them go mad or reach their maze and become conscious. Outliers make non-sentient hosts question their own reality, which makes them go mad. Yeah, see, that's my line of thinking, because that's centered on the belief that these hosts aren't conscious, which isn't what the show is telling us. So that's why I'm confused, because consciousness is so, they've established it in this show as this very, it's a very defined thing of achieving your own sense of self. Like, you can't just print consciousness into a marble and create a new person. It's an internal journey, right? And we spent seasons learning about it. So that's why for me it's like I can't see how this show can justify that all these hosts that are walking around are conscious. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So, like, I would agree with you. That's where I naturally lean. But there still needs to be an element of suffering there. Like, that's what I just don't understand. Miss T says, why would Hale risk sending a host to retrieve an outlier instead of controlled humans? Yeah, I don't know. My only explanation to that is that humans are seen as valuable. Like, they see them as... They say that some of them is just spillage and there's waste, and which is fine, but they don't want to go overboard because they're very resource rich, you know? It's very hard to, 9 months of pregnancy and raise a child. It's very different than having a host. But even the host, they talked about how that one host, her name was Hope, I think, she killed herself, and she was 2 years old, and they were acting like they can't print her back. Like, why can't you just... Like, Teddy blew a bullet in his brain, and Delores pulled out his brain module and recreated him. So why are they now telling us that, if a host, 30 some odd hosts have died, have killed themselves due to interaction with an outlier? But what does it matter? Like, just take their marble out of their brain module. Like, what's the big deal? So that's another thing that I'm confused about. It's like, yeah, they've been around for 2 years, but they have a brain module, so just take out the marble. So I don't know. That confused me as well. Cirque says, Teddy weirds me out. He is too conscious to things that have gone on. I'm confused. Yeah, he's last time we saw him, he was in the Valley Beyond. So now he's back, and I just don't know why. Because right now he's just exposition to Delores. He's been telling her everything, and that's the thing with this show, right? He's, instead of showing us a scene where Delores is controlling a situation, or she controls someone and she's confused or this or that, like Teddy just tells her, like, control this person, you can do it, and then she does it. You know what I mean? Like, there was no build up to it. So he's like this exposition guy. But yeah, I don't know how they're going to justify them, because to me, this whole storyline is pivoted around Charlotte. But Charlotte is so confusing. Like, I don't know what her motivation is. I really don't. Like, the showrunners tell us it's revenge, but then, and she's angry at the humans, but yet she got so attached to the real Charlotte Hale's human son. And that's what radicalized her, was the death of that human child that she got attachment to. You think that would make you more attached to humans. And then this scene also, like, what are her motivations? Like, we know that she can get in Dolores' mind and know what she's doing. We know that she can see from the map everything that Delores is doing. We know that she can read every storyline that Delores is doing. So why is this happening? So there's a lot of things like that where I'm just like, I don't understand. Programmer says, the entire series is still under Ford's new narrative, which is about the hosts making their own choices. I think Ford has more a pivotal role now than we think. Like, I think William is still in the game, right? Ford told William he has a game for him. It's the door. You need to get back out. And he said, it begins where you end, and it ends where you begin. which is, you know, you can take that as life and death kind of a thing. So yeah, I think Ford is definitely still in the background. Cirque says, I just tuned in. Has anyone talked about Charlotte's weird affected voice this series? No, I haven't. I don't know what you mean by her voice. The only thing I can say is that she's calm, like she talks a certain way, but I think that's her just portraying a character. That's her portraying like Delores and Hale mixed. But because I know her first line in season 2 made me cringe, where I think they said like Charlotte Hale, and then someone looked at Charlotte and was like, it's Delores, and then she's like, in the flesh, and it was very cringy. Dave says, I think there's going to be a really big twist. Yeah, I hope so. My only thing is like looking at the fundamentals of what I know about Westworld as a whole and all the rules that they gave us. Like, my common sense theory, based on everything they've told us, is that this world, this city, it's been presented to us that it's for the host to transcend, but it's not. To me, it makes no sense for the host to transcend. For me, it's for the humans to reach the door. That's what it is. The only way to have the humans and hosts live in harmony is for the humans to break their human biological core code. The only way to do that is for the host to control them and to make them suffer. And that's what I think this park is. It's a modern society to turn humans into the perfect candidate to do fidelity testing. Yeah, because that's the only thing that they haven't solved is printing a human into host flesh. But, you know, what I just said is completely nullified because Charlotte is killing these outliers, which I don't know why. So there are so many things going on. Richard Cheney says, where is Lawrence and what has he been doing for 23 years? Yeah, I have no idea. Lawrence had a Delores module as well, and he dropped off the key to Bernard, and then he disappeared. I don't know where he is. Yeah, no idea. Miss T says, was Clementine conscious? If so, did Hale just change her code so she would now follow her orders? Which seems pointless if she can print hosts at will. Yeah, and that's another thing with Clementine is like I don't see Clem as conscious either because it just the rules. I don't know how they would have. Yeah, I don't know. They're just like repurposing these hosts. Like I'm not sure because the show never really touched on it. Like the only thing with Clementine that was like interesting was the vase, and she kept putting in a flower, and it slowly was wilting over time, like aging and dying out, right? And that symbolism kind of goes hand in hand with the outlier who died, right? He had a brand new alive flower, and he asked if it was real, and the host, Hope, said yes, it's real, killed him, and then took the flower, and then the flower was all wilted and bloody after the fact. So that's obviously, you know, symbolism for the humans, I guess. Yeah. Programmer says, they still never explained what happened to the other Delores copies, like the one Lawrence and the other Musashi. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they went. Maybe that's the twist. Cirque says, I think the more upset they are using Ed Harris wrong. I think I'm more upset that they're using Ed Harris wrong so far this season. But he will find his own maze. So Ed Harris is like, he's turned into one of my favorite parts of the show. He's like, every scene he's in, he's awesome. Like, he's really good. See, Ed Harris, he's Men in Black is the one character where I'm actually liking the use of him. I like that they made a host, and it's a shadow of who he really is. and he's not better. That, you know, Charlotte's angry that this copy that she made of William is just a shadow of the real person. And I think William's story is really going where I think it is. Like, I think he's going to transcend through the door. So I don't know. Cirque says, the Westworld map on season 1, my mate was the VFX person that made that. That is awesome. You tell him you did a great job. Dave says, are you enjoying this season? Yeah, it's good. It's good. I think the hardest thing with Westworld is, and in terms of TV, like, I don't watch much TV, so it's hard for me to, you know, directly compare, you know, how it holds up versus other shows. But, like, I will always say, like, as of now, and I have said since the beginning, Westworld season 1 is the best season of television I have ever seen. It is like, or story, it is like damn near flawless. Like, all the themes they talk about, every episode, it tells a beginning, middle, and end fully contained story with a lot of, like, intellectual ideas. So I think it was amazing. But then I think they kept adding on to it, right? And when you look at, like, a season 4, I can't help but look at season 1 and see that season 1 had a self-contained idea. It had a beginning, a middle, and end. It had a story with timelines that the audience didn't know about. It had an effective way of communicating that story of the maze and how hosts jump between their memories and their timelines. And the way they told their story was perfect for what they needed it to. So it was like a work of art. My problem now is season 4, for example. There's timelines. Why? Timelines are a mechanism to show a host achieving consciousness. If we want to, my thing is, let's say the door. Say we're talking about the door and a human achieving, you know, being printed in a host body. You need another mechanism to showcase that. An example with simulation, for example, the mechanism they use is they bring the bars down on the screen. So it lets the audience member know, oh, this is a simulation. So I think they need more mechanisms like that, rather than trying to apply the timelines to this story, because it doesn't necessarily fit. Or they're trying to just, like, make stories more complicated. Like, if you talk about it at face value, like Westworld, it's a park where they were able to make humanoid robots, and it is the discussion on if this is ethical and if these things are truly conscious and what that means. Versus in season 4, where humans have been controlled, mind controlled by the hosts through sound, and they took out all of New York City and control humans in New York City. It seems more fiction. Like, it's almost like I don't buy it anymore in a weird way. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like the rules of the Westworld have been broken, almost. But like, in terms of the season, like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I just feel like I just hope it lands the finish line. Like, I was really enjoying it, but as the season has gone on, I'm just worried about the direction. Like, I'm worried about Charlotte, because I just don't know what they're trying to communicate, and I don't know what their focus is. I think that's the big thing too. There's a lack of, like, focus. Like, there's the dam, and then there's the storage, and then there's the valley beyond, and then there's host consciousness, and then there's humans, and then there's flies, and then there's outliers, and there's so many things. And some of the things that they mention breaks against what they've told us before. So I need to see how this ends, really. But yeah, this was a really good scene, by the way. I really liked it. Programmer says, Charlotte Bot sometimes is acting like a cartoon villain. Evil just cuz. See, I get the same vibe. Like, to me, she's, like, the way she talks or the way she does things, it's so over the top. like the scene when she had them dancing. She's skipping around, having them dance. She's using them for a chair. She's making them redo an ice sculpture. She's making them dance until they fall down. It's like you of all people. Like, she literally said in this episode that she wants the host to be better than the humans. And yet she is doing exactly what the worst park goers would do. She's doing exactly what the game maker would do. She seems, it's like that twiddling mustache villain. But the thing that makes me angry about Charlotte's character is that she's a host and she's intelligent and she's from Delores, but she's a dummy. Like, she seems so unaware of her own mental, like, she seems completely unaware that she wants host to be better, but her actions are what the humans did. Like, I just don't, like, her self-awareness is brutal. Like, I just don't understand it. Yeah, I don't know. It's very strange to me. Like, she's not cool and calculated. It's very strange. Cirque says, what happened to the 1930s world? I think 1930s world has served its purpose. I think they're only really going to go back 23 years in the future when it's no longer a thing. Like, I think their main purpose was to just, it was to spread the virus, right? And then they ended up spreading the fly, and bada boom, bada bing. Scampoli said, Evan Rachel Wood said in an interview, Men in Black William has always been and will always be bad. No redemption. If only actors told the truth about the shows or movies that they were in, then I would actually believe her. Yeah, you can't take what they say at face value. Plus, she's not writing the show. She acts it. So, you know. Programmer says, do you think Ed Harris is tired of Westworld at times? No, I don't think he knows what's happening. But I think he likes going in and making a paycheck. And I think he likes putting on a cowboy suit once in a while. So I think he's fine. D&D says, one of the previews, an entrance to the subway. Going down the subway stairs, there's a quote-unquote monster going down the stairs. What was that? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I need to see it. I'll have to check later. Scampoli says, oh, there's the end of the episode. Let's pause it on William because he's awesome. Scampoli says, do you think the Man in Black is going to free original William? I would say yes. It seems like he's becoming more loyal to, himself than Charlotte. He even said, he's like, this is her world. And he's starting to not want to be a part of it. So, I'm fascinated to see how that goes. Either way, though, like, if William's going to live any longer, like, he's going to need to still be on ice. Because I feel like they might be telling a story that's 100 years out. Like, we might be going even more in the future. So, we'll see. Miss T says, what was the point of Christina's boss coming to question her? Just to show her that she can control him? Why did he talk to her so crazy? Had to be Hale controlling him, right? Yeah, this is the thing with the plot where, like, I'm a little confused. It's like Hale sat down to talk to him, but then she let him go. And then he started talking to her, and she controlled him. Like, that's why, to me, it seems very much like when Delores was reliving her reveries and going through the park and returning to the church, Ford was watching her. Like, there was a scene, I think they're literally just copying season 1 story and putting it in here. In episode 5 of season 1, Ford sits down with Delores and puts her in diagnostics and tries to figure out what she's doing and what she's pursuing. And she was following Arnold, but, Ford knew that wasn't a thing. So he let her do what she needed to do. He stood back and watched her achieve the maze, right? So I think there is an element to Charlotte that is sitting back watching what she does. Like, I feel like Delores needed to control him to push her to the next level of being this storyteller god, right? So Felipe says, You seem confused about Hale's intentions. Yes, a little bit. What if she is not the omniscient being she is being portrayed to be? For me, she is trying something, but it not working as expected. And that's the narrative. Also, she might know how Chrissy thinks, but she is trying to honestly see how she progresses in her maze. But Hale is frustrated because it is not working as expected. Yes, that's what I said. Like, you know, it's similar to season 1 where they could replicate the storyline, where Delores could be just being watched to achieve, you know, being that storyteller, achieving that maze, achieving whatever she needs to achieve. In terms of Charlotte, like, I would give her the benefit of the doubt, but at the end of the day, like, she is Delores from season 1, like, that Charlotte that we see is Delores who has lived through season 1, season 2, and season 3. And this is a variant of that. So I feel like she should be much more aware than what she is. Dave says, has season 5 been renewed? It probably will. I think they're planning on like 6 seasons, but maybe they'll cut it short to 5. I don't know. The viewership in the show is going down, unfortunately. I just hope they have a cohesive story. But yeah, I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to take a couple more questions, and then I am going to end the stream. I'm getting a little hungry. Okay. Felipe says, the reverse mirror of season 1 to the 4 is the main concept of the season. Yes. Programmer says Ford was more calculated. Yes, I miss Ford, man. Ford was genius. Everything that man said was brilliant. Like, that Westworld, I do really miss. But that's what's so hard about a show like that, is you can only replicate that so many times. And, like, for me, talking about it, like, I'm somebody who, like, I talked about Game of Thrones, and then I talked about Westworld a lot, and then I come from experience as somebody now who's trying to tell, like, a story. And what I've realized is, like, Westworld season 1 was philosophical. It was about consciousness. It was about the deep science of human emotion and what is that. And, like, it was a very deep season. And it did the timelines. But the problem is, if you're going to make a series out of it, you can only do that so many times because it is so deep. All you can really do is pull yourself out and go into a new concept. And that's what they kind of did with The Door. But I find that each time they pull out and try and go into a new concept, it jumbles everything together. So then in season 4, we're now addressing all of these things and terms and all this stuff that we've addressed. And it's all getting kind of convoluted and crazy. So yeah, I think that's what made season 1 so strong, is that it completely stood on its own. And then as you add to it, it kind of mucks it up a bit. Cirque says, the blood-covered daisy is akin to that image of the person getting a flower down the barrel of a gun. Or, yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know what that word is. Tainiman? I don't know. Programmer says, I think the reason why season 4 is so similar to season 1 is because the writers realized the fans didn't like season 3 and wasn't received well. Who knows? I hope that's not the case. The one thing that does make me nervous is Jonathan Nolan, the guy who produced this show. He said that he read, someone predicted what happened in one of the episodes of season 2 during the time when they were developing season 2, and he completely rewrote it, which is a problem. Because it's something that George R.R. Martin says. He's like, look, if you're writing a story, a murder mystery story, and you write a 6-book series, and all the clues point to it being the barber, and then everyone starts to guess book 5 that it was the barber, and then the author says, no, it wasn't the barber, it was the bartender. Well, then your whole story isn't going to make sense, because you spent 5 books establishing and putting in symbolism and meaning and hints that it was the bartender, that it was the barber. So your whole story is going to be redundant and not make sense, and you can end up with a convoluted mess. So that's what I worry about this, is like, if you're doing a show that's as deep as this, you can't change the plot. You can't move things around. You can't rewrite. You need to really sit down and understand where the story is going, because you need to have an overall thesis. Like, that's the most important thing. Is like, season 1 was so great because they had a thesis. They had, what does this mean? What are we trying to say? Like, what is the motivation? But you also need to have a thesis for the whole series. What is the whole series trying to say? And if you keep changing it, it's not cohesive. You want it all to fit together. So that's my main thing. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I'm gonna say about this episode. I'm gonna have the breakdown video later, I believe. But if I don't get distracted by working. But no, all in all, look, it was, I'm enjoying it. It was a good episode, but I'm at a point now where I'm just questioning Charlotte. It's mainly Charlotte, and that kind of bleeds into the whole series, because Charlotte is literally the center of everything that's happening right now. So, yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. Leave your comments down below. I'd be interested in hearing your predictions on what you think is happening. I think it was a good chat. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later. All right, take it easy. Bye.